spoilerios about spoilerios. Let's roll.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Evolution of the Arm. I'm Sean Baker. So it's Monday the 24th, episode 11 dropped last night. We watched it twice. Great episode, in my top 3 of the season so far. Get right into it. We have a great opening with the kids playing catch in the kind of the forested area by the trailer park. And boom, Miriam's alive. Now, Kirsten called this, and I kind of poo-pooed the idea last week. I was like, wow, Richard really went to town on her, but obviously not enough. So he's just messing up left and right. There's the idea that Chad might have picked the wrong letter, which some people left in the comments on the last video. I would love to see both of them get what's coming to them, but not before we get a little bit more character development on Richard, because as bad as he is, I love him. We go to Becky Briggs, who is... Now, this is a very Briggs-centric episode, so I'll deal a lot with that. She now appears to me to be as big a psycho as Steven, which surprised me. The whole scene with Shelley going and then Becky taking the car, I gotta say, I loved when she asked Carl for the ride, where he turns around and has the flute right at hand, or the whistle or whatever it was, and the guy comes driving up. I thought that was great. Carl is really the king of his domain in that trailer park. Shelley getting thrown from the car, juxtaposed with the later episode at the diner, Shelley and Red, I'll mention that later. But, you know, I think with Becky being a psycho, I actually think the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I think that Shelley is pretty much just, and I hate to say this because I love the character, but I think she's a white trash drama magnet. And, you know, Bobby fit that mold for her for a while, and obviously when he cleaned up his act, he probably, I mean, we don't know what happened, but it looks like she lost interest, and now she's with Red, who is, you know, God only knows. So that was disappointing. So she flies from the car, and then Becky goes to Steven's place. Interesting thing here. She fires the gun through the door, and then we do this weird tracking shot down into, I don't know if it's a basement or whatever it was, but we see Steven, and I didn't realize this at first. I had to see her name in the credits and then go back the second time and watch it. I was like, oh my God, it's Alicia Witt. It's Gerstein Hayward, right? I'll get more into this later, but that was kind of a mind blow to me. From there we go to Buckhorn. This was, I just thought, masterfully done. It defied a lot of expectations. There's the mechanisms of the lodges and whatnot. They still evade any kind of prediction on how it's going to work. Obviously, Albert and Gordon go in through this fence that Hastings kind of directs them through, and then I'm thinking Albert's just going to kind of disappear through, you know, an invisible barrier, and that doesn't happen. We get this very Donnie Darko whirlwind in the sky. He looks in the whirlwind, sees this room in the sky where the Dugpas or the bearded men are kind of aligned on the staircase, and then almost disappears, and Albert runs in and grabs him at the last minute. This made me think of, is what almost just happened to Gordon what actually happened to Chet Desmond in Fire Walk With Me? I don't know. Similar area, I guess, and it just a similar feel to the scene, so that got me thinking. We get the end of Hastings in this really weird scene. Why does Diane see the Dugpa and not say anything? Well, I mean, you know my theory. I don't know if that's going to pan out, but we'll see. Note also the address where McClay, which I'm loving Brent Briscoe right now. I absolutely love him in this. He calls in back up to 2240 Sycamore, of course, right? Okay, so from there we get a lot more with Dougie, and I'm just going to wrap this up in one blow right here because we jump around, but I actually liked these scenes with Dougie quite a bit. I love the Mitchum brothers. I didn't mention them last time just because I didn't have the time. I'm not going to go into a lot of it here. I really, really like Robert Knepper and Belushi as these guys, and I thought the whole sequence of events with them in this episode was just great. And the laugh out loud moment of the season, more so even than the Michael Cera, is the woman, you know, Mr. Jackpots, Mr. Jackpots. I just absolutely loved it. It was so great. I'm going to go back to the double R. So we've got the Briggs family dynamic. What's going on? So obviously now we know for sure Becky is Bobby and Shelley's child. Carl calls Shelley Briggs when he calls for Bobby on the CB. I can't really gauge her reaction, but it doesn't seem like are they separated? Is he just calling her Briggs out of habit? Whatever the case, I don't know. But she's clearly not with Bobby, right? And in fact, to kind of underline my idea of her being the drama magnet, Red comes up to the window and she stops embracing her daughter in mid-dramatic moment and runs out to, you know, be all 14-year-old kissy face with him in front of her daughter and Bobby. Pissed me off. And you know, it's cool seeing Bobby. He looks to me like he's a pretty solid dude right now, and Shelley is clearly. I mean, you get a lot of these scenes in a couple episodes now with Norma watching what's going on with Shelley and Becky, and Norma hasn't said anything yet, but I think that she sees that Shelley's life is just a whirlwind, and she, you know, she probably isn't happy about it, but what can you do? Then we get the gunshot, and this, one of my favorite scenes in the season so far is this sequence with the little kid with the gun, and then the woman honking the horn and screaming. I thought that actress, I forgot her name already, but it was just masterful. It was annoying as hell, but it was so awesome. And then this whole thing about, she's referring to like she hasn't seen her uncle in a long time. We still have miles to go, and there's nobody in the car with her. And you're thinking, is somebody hiding? What's going to happen? And then this girl kind of comes up out of the darkness of the passenger seat, very zombie-like, or kind of reminds me of the 119 mom from Vegas. And she's arms are straight ahead, and she's gurgling, and then starts kind of vomiting or spitting up this green stuff. And then we just don't, you know, it just kind of cuts. Really freaky scene, but like the chaos that drove that scene was so intense. I absolutely loved it. And really nothing was really happening. But so I want to take this and then the sick girl in the car and then Gerstein Hayward. I want to take this into this idea. I really like in this idea that Twin Peaks has become a toxic place because of these things. Now we see with Hawk and Truman, he's talking about how Major Briggs's base that burned down was on Blue Pine Mountain. It's a sacred site to Hawk's people. And if you look at the map, the abomination or the experiment or whatever it is, we think that's what that owl-like symbol is now referring to. He tells Frank, you don't ever want to know about that. It's right by that mountain. I think it's no coincidence the government built that Blue Pine, or that base on Blue Pine Mountain at the sacred site. And I think maybe this abomination or mother of horrors or whatever exactly it is, the experiment, could be man-made, and it could have been made to facilitate some kind of research into the fundamentals of evil. I'm kind of piggybacking off Lion Standing and Andrew Boone's comments on my videos. And so now imagine this. So this is in this place. They've kind of tainted what was once spiritually sound to Hawks people, right? So we get the fire, we get the intention behind the fire, decides if it's good or bad. You combine that with this diseased corn, Fertility, which is this mother of abominations. So this whole area, it might be spilling out into Twin Peaks, and we're seeing signs of this. The cancer in Harry, and in the log lady, and in Beverly's husband. And, you know, the drugs, and surely even Richard at this point, you know, is a good indication of like how far gone somebody can be. I think now Gerstein Hayward really affected me to see that, because the Haywards were a great family, and they were very indicative of what Twin Peaks was 25 years ago. They went to church, they sat down to Sunday dinner. Whether or not those make you inherently good people, they were a good family, right? And now you see Gerstein shacked up with this douchebag, Steven, and probably a junkie and caught up in all this stuff. It made me think of Doc, and how Doc Hayward had he was kind of defeated a little bit when Frank talked to him a couple episodes ago. I know that's because he's very old, right? But at the same time, I think that this is the older denizens of Twin Peaks are coming to terms with the fact that like that way of life ended. And I think vicariously, this is Lynch coming to terms with that. You know, if you look at Lynch's career up through Twin Peaks, it dealt with this kind of 50s Americana that was like, hung over from his childhood, and kind of balancing it with these darker themes. Blue Velvet, the obvious, like the seedy underbelly. Twin Peaks as well, but that had the supernatural bent to it. After Twin Peaks, aside from the straight story, we go to Lost Highway, and it takes, Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire takes a very modern turn. And you don't really see that 50s Americana anymore, because I think that, its effects, they didn't leave Lynch, but new things had affected him, things from this new world. And now here he has the opportunity to kind of balance these and say goodbye to this old world, and kind of muse on the transition. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. I think this ties into the way that the town is, and these characters have fallen from grace, and it's really fascinating. I loved the episode. Again, loved the Mitchum brothers, the cherry pie. God, come on. So, okay, until then, see you in the trees. Hey folks, I want to let you know that later this week I'm going to post a supplemental video. It's not going to be about the episode. I'm actually returning to the Twin Peaks Fest in Washington State. It's a 17-year reunion of some friends and I that went in 2000. And we're going again this year, so it's going to probably be amazing. There's a lot of great guests. I'm not going to go for interviews or anything like that. I don't want to bother the celebrities, but I'll put up some footage and, you know, we'll see. I think it's going to be great. 2000 was awesome, so I'm expecting this to be even better. So, okay, see you in the trees.